My name is Ashlyn. I'm going to be doing my presentation on my myth topic, which is criminal profiling actually helpful in solving cases? So to give you some background, if you don't know what criminal profiling is, I'm not sure if you've ever watched the show Criminal Minds, but essentially that's where I kind of learned what criminal profiling was, and kind of got some idea of what that might be. So criminal profiling is being able to look at a crime scene, analyze a crime scene, analyze the victimology, which is the characteristics of the victim that was affected, and looking at all of these different pieces and being able to infer behavioral and personality characteristics about the person who might have committed the crime itself. So there's different things that you can look for in the crime scene, like if the crime scene was organized or disorganized. The victimology, like I talked about, was the crime scene messy, where's the crime scene located, different things like that, to be able to kind of piece together some different personality types and behavioral aspects that might lead you towards the person who committed the crime, or at least be able to narrow down a suspect pool of who to be looking for. So some background on criminal profiling. The man who kind of started some of this his name was John Edward Douglas. He was in the FBI. He's the one who kind of started the behavioral science unit and started this idea of criminal profiling in, I believe, around the 80s. Another person who is credited to have a lot to do with criminal profiling is David Cantor. He is also credited with developing the idea of investigative psychology. He actually used a criminal profile as one of the first ones that were used to actually catch a criminal, the railroad rapist, in 1986. He used a criminal profile and was able to narrow down the suspect pool and be able to help catch the person who is doing these things. So criminal profiling is said to be useful in some cases, like with rapists and sexual sadism, serial killers, things like that. These people who tend to have some psychological disorder, which points to them having more similarities than other people who just commit kind of spur-of-the-moment crimes. These people are a little bit easier for psychologists and profilers to be able to understand, because we do have some more research on things like antisocial personality disorder and the different personality traits and aspects that are involved in that, and so we are able to kind of narrow down the types of people who commit these types of crimes, and actually these profiles can be very useful when catching these types of criminals. The similarities between the people who commit these crimes because of some type of mental disorder, psychological disorder, something along those lines, it makes it a little bit easier for psychologists and profilers to be able to pinpoint those behavioral and personality characteristics. Some ways that criminal profiling does not work really is that it contains bias. So we know that confirmation bias is whenever we look to only accept the ideas that kind of fit into what we already think. So that can be an issue whenever these profilers and psychologists are coming up with their profiles. So if you have this idea that's already kind of planted in the back of your head, or if you have these ideas and then you come across something that doesn't fit into this profile, essentially, then you're more likely to just kind of like leave it to the side and not include it, when in reality it could have been very useful to catching the criminal. So they might disregard any information that would go against what they already have or what their working profile essentially is. Another type of bias that can be seen in criminal profiling is racial biases, ethnic biases, things like that. So whenever people have predisposed ideas or thoughts about others, and we use that in creating these profiles, that can cause issues down the line with catching the person who actually is the suspect, because whenever you're putting these ideas essentially the same thing as confirmation bias. It's all a part of this idea of selective thinking and picking and choosing what works with what you already believe or what you already think, and what goes against that, and then using that to your benefit. In order for criminal profiling to really be essential and to really be shown to work, is being able to kind of limit these biases and take out these biases from these profiles, and being able to actually have a non-biased outside profile created to be able to understand these criminals who would commit these acts. There are people on both sides of the argument, though, that have really good information to support their ideas. Some people still do support the idea that criminal profiling is 100%, and some people really believe that it is a pseudoscience. A psychiatrist, there was a case of psychiatrist James Russell for the Mad Bomber of New York City. When this profiling first became a thing, they told him, they were like, okay, create this profile for the bomber in New York. And so then he created the profile, and he told him everything down to like what type of suit the man would be wearing whenever they went to pick him up. They said that he would be a single man, a certain age, living in Connecticut, and that he would be wearing this suit when you picked him up, and all of these things. And so when they actually came to pick him up, and he went upstairs and changed into the exact suit that the psychologist James Russell said that he would be wearing. So, I mean, in cases like this, it makes it hard to sit back and, from somebody from the outside, if you're looking at this case, you're like, oh my gosh, well then like criminal profiling has to be 100%, that has to work. But that's not always the case. But whenever we are presented with cases like this, it does make it difficult to create doubt behind the idea that criminal profiling can be inaccurate, but that essentially is why people can still believe that it does work. So it is beneficial in some cases more than others, but it can't be 100% proven that it is 100% helpful due to the biases involved, due to the ongoing developments in psychology and in mental disorders, psychiatric disorders, and things like that. Thank you.